Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your weekend astrology forecast and tarot report for the weekend of September 7th and 8th of 2024. Appreciate you all joining me in this video. Hopefully you guys have had a wonderful week. I know the schedule's been a little bit different this week. I just had to make some adjustments to make it make sense, and hopefully you guys were able to at least catch the last horoscope, which did cover Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I hope that you guys are going to have a wonderful weekend. So this video is going to be covering Saturday and Sunday, like I just said. So let's go ahead and hop into today's video, see what the cards have to say, see what the planets are doing, so we can see how you can be better prepared to navigate these celestial energies. Wow. Starting off, I do have the Page of Pentacles in reverse. And you know, it's interesting. Whenever I see the page, of course, I always think of a student, someone who's learning. The Page of Pentacles is definitely very eager to learn. I think the Page of Pentacles is also that individual. This is the young entrepreneur that's like has those big eyes and wants to just kind of tackle the world and everything like that. A young merchant kind of energy. With it being in reverse, though, this could definitely bring up some frustrations when it comes to, you know, I guess having being bright-eyed, bushy-tailed when it comes to some of those endeavors, especially like business, finance, and stuff. Or it can really just speak to energy just kind of slowing down overall, and not having the full picture too. The Page of Pentacles can also be rookie mistakes when it comes to money and stuff like that. So just be on the lookout this weekend for like trying not to be too loose with your money, too loose with your change and stuff like that too. Let's see what it's followed by. Well, I do have the Ten of Cups, and I think that the fact that this card comes afterwards is pretty interesting. The Page of Pentacles itself is already showing that energy is kind of slowing down. Maybe, we might have these bright aspirations, the things that we want to go for, but maybe they haven't turned out exactly the way that we want them to. The Ten of Cups is about, triumphing through the hardship. It's the rainbow. The rainbow, of course, always comes after a storm. So the Ten of Cups is the choice to believe that something is better, that something will come, that even though there are storms in life, even though it may rain and thunder and lightning, that there are good times ahead. So it's really about, a shift in the way that we think about things, the way that we approach it. And of course, it is Ten of Cups, so it does deal with the emotions. But there's an element of faith and belief that comes with the Ten of Cups, a belief that even though we may be going through some hardships, or even though we may go through the storms, that the storms will clear up, the sun will come out, and it will shine again, And even with that rain, it still has its purpose, right? Watering the plants, watering the earth, allowing for that growth to happen. It's all cyclical. It all works together. I think a lot of times when we're kind of going through it, when we're in the storms, when we're in the difficulties, we're not realizing that all of that is there to actually promote our growth, not necessarily to just hold us back or push us down, but it's actually there to promote the growth. That's why, look at the rainforest. Why do they call it a rainforest? Well, it rains in the rainforest a lot. But look at the vibrancy in the rainforest. Look at the flora and the fauna and just the sheer amount of life in the rainforest. So there is a purpose to the storms that come in our life, right? Of course, astrologically this weekend, we will see that moon come into Scorpio. Right now, at this current moment, is right here at the edge of Libra. So it is making that square over to Pluto, now in Capricorn. So we're going to see, this moon square over to this Pluto. We'll see it in about a month or so. We're only going to get this, maybe 2 more times. And then after this, you will never again see the moon in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn. We'll never see that again. So this is one of the last times that we're going to see this particular energy, and of course it's a little bit later on in the day, essentially. So, we move this forward and stuff, and we're going to see that moon slip into Scorpio, right? And Of course, the moon does fall here. It does not like to be in Scorpio. It is going to make an immediate trine over to Mars, and I think this is very interesting because this actually does create some mutual reception. Mars is at fallen Cancer. The moon is at fallen Scorpio, but the moon rules Cancer, and Mars is a traditional ruler of Scorpio. So even though they are both in pretty tough places, this can definitely speak to our emotional resilience. You know, how we can kind of tough things out, not suppress the emotions, okay? But how we can be more resilient in our lives and how we can, you know, be more resistant to maybe different urges or impulses that may come up that, maybe we get a little bit perturbed. Mars in Cancer is it's kind of a big baby kind of energy. Not gonna lie, it's temper tantrums, right? And the moon of Scorpio feels things very, very deeply and probably takes things a bit personally as well. So that's the thing about this energy is that you don't want to take things too personally while the moon's Scorpio, especially as it's squaring this Mars. Now, granted, this is happening at 4:03 a.m., so people in Europe, you guys probably feel this more. People in America, probably not, unless you're up partying this late and stuff. But this is still going to start to set the tone because now we're going to start seeing moons and Scorpios make trines over to this Mars in Cancer. And we're going to be seeing this for the next 7 months. Now, Mars will come into Leo briefly, but it will retrograde back into Cancer too. So we have to take that into consideration. So it's like, just be wary of different impulses, be wary of different triggers. Be wary that your emotions can definitely be very, very hot and cold, especially in trying to this Mars too, because Mars does bring that fiery element, but it is in water right now, so it does kind of cool things off, and it is more of a steam, if you will. So things can start to simmer a bit and steam and all these sort of things. If you just look at these different kind of metaphors, the way to describe it. So that's why I was saying, like, when we're starting off the reading with the Page of Pentacles, it does give me this sort of feeling of like, like a bit of optimism and wanting to go for certain things. But I literally am getting the image of someone who is, you know, wanting to pursue a business or wanting to try to make some money, whatever like that, and then they just learn the hardships of life. I don't think it's necessarily that there's a failure here with the Page of Pentacles in reverse. I think it's more so that the page realizes that it wasn't going to be as easy as I thought, that the dream, in order to build the dream, the Ten of Cups, right, in order to build the dream, it requires work, it requires effort, it requires experience, it requires time. And I think that's what this whole weekend is going to be teaching us, is that we can have the good life and the beautiful life, but it's going to take time. And yes, there are going to be challenges. Yes, we're going to have to face some realities. The sun is going to oppose Saturn this weekend. That's another thing that we're going to see. We also do have Mercury that's going to be in. We have Mercury that's going to be in square to Uranus, right? Of course, that happened on September 6th, but we're going to be feeling it still throughout the day here. And this Mercury, as it's coming off of the square to Uranus, we'll see on Saturday, it'll be square for most of the day, and then we're going to see it immediately come into a quincunx with Neptune. That's going to bring about an awkward energy. Mercury in Leo, it's still in its shadow, but it's moving a lot faster now, so that's definitely good. And it's about, thinking positive. Thinking positive, thinking of those things that, really, uh, you know, you know, just bring out that spark in us, the passion, the creativity, and speaking that into the universe. I think the awkward part with the Neptune retrograde in Pisces is that, like, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of fog, so it's like we have to remain positive in a world that there are a lot of unknowns, and that's honestly the short end of it. There are a lot of unknowns right now, right? The visionary planets, when it comes to like looking into the future, we have Uranus in Taurus, that's a fallen planet. We have Jupiter in Gemini, that's a detriment planet. We have Mars in Cancer, which wants to move things forward, that's a fallen planet. right? And you have Saturn, which is the ruler of time. I wouldn't say it's necessarily about looking into the future. I think it's more about preparing and responsibility, but it is in Pisces. So it makes it one of the stronger planets because the ruler of Pisces, Neptune, is there. But it's at the end of Pisces here, and it's retrograde. So we live in a very confusing time. We live in a time where it's like it's hard to kind of plan too far ahead because we don't know what's going to happen. That's not to say that we can't make plans. It just means that we have to learn how to be stronger and more powerful in the day to day. Taking sometimes we're just taking things day by day, week by week, maybe month by month. But it's definitely not a time to be looking like so far into the future. I think there are going to be some things that we know, the things that we can control, but there are a lot of unknowns right now, and I think we have to learn how to be okay with the unknowns. And I think this Page of Pentacles is like there are a lot of unknowns to this business or to whatever that they're trying to establish. There are a lot of unknowns to, the things that we're trying to build in our life. But there are some things that we do know. Maybe we know, and that's where Mercury comes in. We know that we're passionate about it. We know that it's spiritually aligned, right? We know that it is something that gives us a sense of purpose, right? So I think that's another thing about this. So when we ask ourselves those kind of questions, it's going to help us to navigate these energies a little bit better, even though things may seem a bit challenging, right? Now, of course, as that day continues, we're going to see that moon just keep traveling throughout Scorpio, right? It's not going to really make any other aspects here. Now, we do have a yod that's starting to form, of course, between Mercury, Pluto, and Saturn. Oh, not Saturn, Neptune. Remember, we talked about this when Mercury first went into Virgo, how it triggered this yod, and how it retrograded back and it triggered this yod again. So while we're visiting this point again, we're visiting this 28 degrees of Leo to about 0 degrees of Virgo. We're visiting this spot yet again. And we got to remember, this is also the spot where Venus retrograded last year as well. So there's a and this is of course where Regulus just recently moved in 2012 to 0 degrees of Virgo, which was the 2012 Mayan shift. So there's a lot of stuff happening in this spot, and what's Regulus? That's the heart of the lion, right? So it's like we need to have the heart of a lion right now in the face of confusion, in the face of not really knowing how things are exactly going to turn out. But there are some things that you do know, and the things that you do know, that's what we need to, hone in on and learn to appreciate. And, an attitude of gratitude is definitely going to go a long way in these sort of times, right? We move into Sunday. We're going to, of course, see this moon continue traveling throughout Scorpio. And we are going to see the sun make an opposition to Saturn. Now, granted, it's building up pretty much all day Saturday, and officially happens like early Sunday morning or late Saturday, if you will. So, yeah, so it happens like really early in the morning here. Pretty much right at midnight, we're going to see that sun make that opposition over to Saturn, right? And this is just, this is when we face challenges. Whenever you have a planet opposing Saturn, this is like when you're facing like facts and reality and truth, and just, it's when reality kind of sets in. It's that moment where, it's like, okay, now we got to grow up. We got to be in a bit of an adult here. The sun in Virgo here, of course, too, has been pretty strong overall. Especially, it'll be stronger once Mercury comes back into Virgo here in just a few days. And this is just us facing that reality. Us facing the reality of the situations that we may be involved in, the relationships, how the different dynamics and those things and how they play out. This Saturn in Pisces, of course, is reminding us to remain spiritually vigilant, to remember to maintain that spiritual integrity. That's something I've been saying quite a lot. It's kind of like a buzzword, spiritual integrity, spiritual integrity. And I think also the thing here is that, there's a level of patience here that we're being taught with Saturn and Pisces. There's a lot of planets are retrograde, right? Uranus is retrograde, Chiron is retrograde, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto's now back in Capricorn, Mars is in a fallen place, Jupiter is in a detriment place, the moon is in a fallen place, Venus is in its home, but it's here with the South Node and Black Moon Lilith. So It's a time right now where it's like, yeah, the energy is not super comfortable. It's not super comfortable, but you can still carve out and find reasons to smile, laugh, be happy, be positive. That's the Mercury and Leo part of it too. It's like we can still find those ways to stay uplifted and to remain positive during this time and just to see on the positive side of things. And you know, we still want to be real about what's going on. Obviously, we don't want to just gloss over shit. We don't want to gloss over things, but an attitude of gratitude, like I said, is going to go a long way. The way that you think about these things, the ways that you choose. Choice is really big here. I think, especially when you have a lot of retrograde planets, I think this is an opportunity for us to make our revisions and make our corrections. When planets are going forward, that's kind of when things are kind of happening. I feel like there's a lot of like karma that we're kind of working through or establishing, but then when planets retrograde, it gives us an opportunity to kind of revise things and kind of go over what's happened so that when the planet comes forward again and we're like retested on those degrees, we that can give us an opportunity to change our answers or not, you know? So, and then once a planet goes into another sign or it comes back around, then we really start to learn the lessons of that transit really meant. We learn more about it when we get the squaring energy. So, for example, Mercury is now in Leo, right, and it's retrograding. We're kind of learning about, okay, what happened when Mercury was back in Taurus, stuff like that. Now Mercury is squaring that zone. So a lot of those lessons that are coming up with Mercury and Taurus are kind of being challenged right now with the Mercury and Leo. They'll also be challenged once it goes into, Scorpio. And based off of the way that we kind of went through those lessons with the Mercury and Taurus, will determine how we respond to it going into other zones and stuff. So that's the way you kind of have to look at astrology. It's like the layering aspects, not just the day and stuff, because that's the thing about it. It's that like time is not linear, right? So it's like these aspects are happening simultaneously, and that's the way that we kind of have to look at it. So, Sunday, we have this big face off with the sun and Saturn. So this is one of those moments where sort of like a reality kind of sets in, kind of kicks in. And the reality is that the energy is slow. We don't exactly know where everything's going. Um, Things aren't going to manifest as fast as we necessarily want to. The energy is not super comfortable and, you know, cushiony and everything like that. It's a little bit rougher, but But that's the cool thing about it is that these are the kind of times that will promote the greatest growth and the greatest catapults that will propel you into a more fulfilling, beautiful, purpose-filled life. And that's really what it comes down to, right? So we'll see that sun throughout the day, opposed Saturn. Saturn's at 16:0. By this time, of course, in the morning, the sun's at 16:17. So, like I said, it happens very early in the morning here. And we'll, of course, see this moon hit 16 degrees, and it'll end up trining over to Saturn here. Pretty much right at 16, right on the cusp of 15 degrees. So we have a nice little sextile over to the sun, and that moon will actually make a trine over the Saturn. So even though the moon is not really necessarily in the best place, this is some nice aspects here, opening up some opportunities to, like, you know what? Even though we may feel deeply about certain things with that moon in Scorpio, now we're going to be reacting and responding in a more scorpionic way. So we may be reacting and responding in a more hot and cold way, or even emotionally manipulative way, because that's kind of the dark side of Scorpio, or maybe emotionally manipulative, right? There's an opportunity that kind of opens up here to, like, feel deeper into things, feel deeper into what's kind of lying beneath the surface, if you will, the things that we tried to hide and stuff. And there's also that sort of like investigative energy with Scorpio. The trine over to Saturn is going to, like I said, it's going to allow us to really tap a little bit more into that spiritual integrity and to, the fabric of reality right now, and how things are kind of loose right now and things do seem kind of weird and wavy, but to kind of tap into that and see the value and, going with the flow. Saturn in Pisces is very much teaching us how to go with the flow, but also how to be mature in doing so, not just be completely whisked around and, allowing our emotions to completely dictate everything, but how to kind of go with the flow and like move and bend. This is definitely a bend don't break kind of moment. That's like a term that you hear in sports, especially like football. Like the defense bent, but they didn't break. They didn't allow the other team to score a touchdown. They scored a field goal, so it's less points. So this is definitely a bend don't break kind of moment, and that's okay. And I think this is a time that's teaching us like, hey, you're human. You're human. You're not super. You're not Superman. Not Superwoman. Whatever like that. You're human. We're all in this experience. I think these are times that are definitely humbling, for everybody. And it's just like, hey, bend don't break. You know what I mean? And there's no shame in that. I think some people probably are. I think people are too hard on themselves right now. They're way too hard on themselves. So yeah, this is a bend don't break kind of energy. We'll see that moon make a few more aspects throughout the day. Of course, we'll see it. Like I said, it does sextile the sun. It does trine Saturn. We will say it make a quincunx over to Jupiter, so that's going to be one of those awkward stares from across the room. You kind of see a bit of a yod form. It's not exact because Chiron and Jupiter are within 3 degrees of each other, but Jupiter is retrograde, and Jupiter does have a pretty large influence, but because it's retrograde, it's not the strongest. So this is a very loose yod, if you will. The moon will quincunx both of these energies. Jupiter, of course, will bring up some uncomfortability in this place, but at least what it can do is help us to, kind of expand upon, and just kind of learn more of the facts of things and just have a little bit more of that visionary quality, when it comes to the way that we, communicate and connect to other people. Of course, over to Chiron here, this is going to be more so like, probably emotionally responding and reacting to, different, woundings that we see of ourselves or, different aspects of ourselves that we see that we may not necessarily like and, emotionally responding to those in kind of weird and awkward ways. So, I guess the way to integrate this is that, like, you may have like a weird quirk or something that kind of comes up that you may not necessarily like, but you got to be able to turn it into a positive or see a positive in that or see how that quirk, whatever like that, although it may be challenging, can be something that's like, oh, that's teaching me a lesson. It's actually there for growth. Like, so it's like, I'm trying to think of like even a decent example, but I can't really think of like a super great example. But maybe you have the tendency to jump to conclusions and you maybe put your foot in your mouth with certain situations. Like maybe you speak too fast. Maybe you say different things that you kind of, like I said, you kind of jump the gun. Maybe you have a tendency to like jump the gun, and maybe you jump the gun this evening and say something and you don't have the full picture of it. Well, you can look at that as a, damn, I hate that part of myself that I keep jumping the gun. Or you can be like, you know what? How can that be a positive? It can, maybe it's a way for you to feel like you're more prepared. Or you can look at it as, you know what? Even though I do jump the gun, I guess this is teaching me this part about myself. That's a bad example. I'm trying to think of a better example than that, but I think it's about, like I said, learning how to integrate those aspects of ourselves that we may not see as favorable, but can still be there as a teacher or help guide us to learn some type of lesson, if you will. So, we'll get a couple more cards. I do have the Ace of Wands in reverse. Even though this card is reversed, it's not bad. I think this is about just rekindling inspiration or motivation or I don't think this is really anything new, but I think this is just realizing what's already there, realizing the firepower that's already there, and not necessarily needing to seek some sort of external validation or some type of external motivation or inspiration. But this is about being able to self-motivate and seeing the fire that's already within you. Like, you don't have to go outside of you to get it. It's already there. And then the final tarot card before I get into the Oracle card Messenger, I do have the Hermit card upright. Kind of interesting. So that's why I'm saying, like, I think just picking back off the Ace of Wands, it just kind of confirms that this is something within you, and that this is not something that anyone else is going to bring out. This is about your journey this weekend, your spiritual journey, and you kind of going your own way and going your own path. This is about, you have to be, he's carrying the lantern. So you could think of the lantern as that Ace of Wands, because it does provide a light, if you will. Or like, how like a lot of times with like, you have like the torches, and they'll have like the fire on it, and use that to kind of walk and kind of guide and stuff like that. Well, the Ace of Wands is in reverse, so no one's going to come and bring this torch for you. You gotta be the one to kind of light it yourself. And I think that's really what this time is about, is that like there's not going to be really anybody that comes and saves you. This is about you being able to pick yourself up and to kind of move forward. I think, of course, we can always be there for each other. We can always be there to help each other and motivate each other, support each other. But I think ultimately this is a choice, as far as like, are you going to live a life that is more purpose-filled? Or are you going to live a life where you value what is in your heart? You value your creativity, your imagination, the love that is you. Are you going to value those things? No one can do that but you. So you have to be your own guide this weekend. You have to be your own torch bearer, if you will, because no one else is going to bring it for you. But once you realize that, or once you decide, make that conscious decision to, pick yourself up when you need to be that torch bearer, and, you take your power back, essentially. You take your power back. So we're here to inspire and motivate each other, and we all need help. We all need to lean on each other too. So I'm not saying it's not just because the Hermit card's here. It's not saying to just be by yourself and just hermit up and not communicate and not do anything with other people and just completely rely on yourself and never rely on others. That's not what it's saying. What it's saying is that you have to be your own light. You have to be the light in your own life. You have to choose to be that, and you can't just always, and that's the dangerous part of this moon in Scorpio, is that whenever the moon goes into Scorpio, a lot of people have a tendency to really drain other people's emotions and their energy. So you don't want to be an emotional leech this weekend, you know what I'm saying? So you want to have some sort of sovereignty when it comes to that. So yeah, this is not about being all to yourself and never accepting help or anything like that, trying to do everything, a strong arm everything. But this is about choosing consciously to be there for yourself every single day. Some days it may be harder than others, and it will be, but when you make that conscious decision to be there for yourself every single day, that is what's most important. Whew. That is going to do it for your weekend astrology and tarot forecast. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey. Oh, I almost missed the animal messenger card. Ooh, kangaroo. As events take on their own momentum, you take a true leap forward. I like that. As events take on their own momentum. This is about going with the flow and just like doing what you do, and things will take on their own momentum and you will find that leap forward. It's not something that you have to try and force. It's not something that you have to kind of strong arm. It's about, like I said, going with the flow, doing what you know is right, doing what you know you need to do, and not having to try and force everything or complicate it, but you will see those gains. It may take some time, but you will see those gains. But yes, that's going to do it for your weekend message. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey. I love you all so much. Thank you so much. Take care and stay blessed. And I will see you all on the next video. Peace.